everybody, I'm going to show you how to correctly measure push rods, but I'm also going to show you the difference. Right now, I'm going to show you the difference between the man's push rod and the 10-year-old girl's push rod. Now, the 10-year-old girl's push rod, right here. Now this push rod, this is your typical push rod in an LS or any small block Chevrolet. The typical one for any of your hydraulic roller stuff, makes great horsepower. Now, this is the 10-year-old girl push rod. Let me show you the man's push rod. Ta-da! Or as my buddy Derek, Vice Rick Rogers say, this is the Tanya Harding edition push rod. Bang! All right. So this push rod fits in very few things in this world. This is actually a 5/8 to half inch taper. This is a big Mogambo push rod. This is your 10-year-old girl push rod. This is your man's push rod. So, like I said, this fits in very few things. This is actually one of our Pro Mod Hemi type push rods right here. But let's go over here and now we'll show you how to correctly measure push rod length in any engine. I wanted to show you exactly how to correctly measure for push rod length. Now, this is for a shaft mount system where you can raise and lower the mount, okay? So these are the shaft mounts, all right? And raising and lowering them changes the sweep of the rocker arm. So I'm going to show you that. Now this is on a shaft mount, and basically they're all the same. So the shaft mount, I'm able to raise the stand up and down. On a stud mount, you're able to raise the rocker arm up and down by changing the length of the push rod. Here, we are raising the stand up and down, getting the correct sweep, the correct motion on the rocker arm, and then putting the push rod in to see how long it is, measure it, and then get it that way, okay? So a stud mount is a little bit slightly more complicated, but actually not. It's just raising it up to make it, continuing to make the push rod the same length, or the correct length, in order to make it sweep right. Here, we can do it all without the push rod, and then we just put the push rod in later. In a LS, you're basically doing the same thing. If it's non-adjustable stand in an LS, where you can't raise or lower the rocker arm, well, then you're just screwed. You're gonna have to just measure up the push rod as best you can. Preloading the lifter, not really gonna go through all that right now. I just wanna show you how to measure the push rod lengths on a solid roller and a hydraulic roller with adjustable stands, okay? So, we'll just start out right with a stand, just the way it is. Let me grab a couple bolts. And I'll show you what the difference is. Okay, so this is stock position right here. Our rocker arms. Okay, are like this. So in the shaft mount, so the shaft mount is down, and we're looking for centered on the roller tip like this, and then we want, in a basic nutshell, minimal amount of movement. So it will start out on this side of the valve tip. Okay, this is exaggerated. As it goes down, it moves this way and then comes back out. So it always does this little sweepy motion right here. Actually, I'm doing it inverted, sorry. Goes like this. That is the sweeping motion. Okay, and as you look at this valve compared to the valve tip comes out, and as it goes to full lift, it starts going back in. So what we want it to do is we want to get the correct stand height, the correct height period, that this position of the roller to the tip is exactly the same as wide open throttle position roller of the tip. I'm sorry, wide open lift of the position to the tip. Okay, so there you can see the roller wheel has gone in, and it starts coming back out this way and then goes back in over there. All right, so that actually is not super bad right where it's at. Let me do this while I'm looking at it. Now, up here at the top, it pretty much comes back quite a bit farther than when it's at peak lift. And I just happen to know what, I mean, I can tell you where peak lift is at. That right there is about 3/4 of an inch, which is pretty close to what this is. Yeah, so the stand needs to come up because it starts back here too far, comes way out, and then comes like to here. So watch my finger, it starts here, goes out, and then ends here, instead of a nice perfect sweep where it would start and stop at the same spot. So stop there, comes out, comes up, exact same spot, has a nice arc. This doesn't. This starts here, goes all the way and comes back over here, over exaggerated. So now let's check the intake before we shim this exhaust up, but we can do both. And like on a Jessel and most systems that have a little tie bolt together, you leave that loose because it has a little bit of adjustability to where one stand will be able to go up higher than the other one. So let's look and see what our intake stand is. Now you don't have to have the, doesn't matter about the camshaft or rolling it over at all. Yeah, see it comes way back. Right at the last second you see it come way back on the valve. And this one, yeah, that one needs to come up too. All right, now we have a little checker spring in here just so it's easier to swing and make the motion. So, oops, there we go. Now there's also some things that you're not able to adjust. Some things would require a stand change or having to offset. So if you're in our ideal world, everything would happen right in the middle of the valve. Sometimes it's going to be off a little bit over here. We're trying not to have it over here. As this happens, what the problem is the rocker arm body is too long, or you need to get a different stand that will move the rocker arm back. So the entire rocker arm body itself would need to go back or forward. Once you have the correct sweep, if it's not in the right position on the valve tip, you have to move the rocker arm, either make it shorter or longer, or move the stand, the little channel here, forward or backward. So let's get some shim on here. All right. All right, so we put the machined shims under here. Don't put some piece of crap washer under there. You need to put a nice flat ground shim front. They're ground on both sides. All right, make sure nothing's hitting, make sure it's not hitting the stud, make sure there's all sorts of clearance issues there. On little stuff makes big differences. All right, now we got the rocker arm here. Now notice too, I've not done anything with the push rod yet. Don't care. We are trying to get the sweep correct and get the pivot point, the fulcrum point, at the proper angle, proper height compared to the valve stem tip. Now they do have a little checking tool. The checking tool gives you a good baseline, but sometimes we can change the sweep up just a little bit. Now there is, I am giving you the really short abridged the best way of checking your push rod length. There is a lot of different little things you can do with sweep geometry and valve train motion that makes little bits of difference here or there in different spots. That is it's hours long of video trying to explain how every little single thing would work. You know, changing your pivot height to make it come in back here versus up here. But there's a lot of different things, but this is the best general method to make this all happen. Okay, so let's put this back down. We'll sweep this rocker. Now let's see what it looks like. I like the start position, looks good. And you can see here it starts pretty much immediately, comes down, starts coming over, and yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Where it starts, where it stops. That looks good. Okay, let's go over here to the intake. Now, I gotta tell you, we've already cheated this up a little bit because we've already done it and already got the proper shims underneath it. But this is giving you an illustration of what those shims changed your geometry to look like. All right, and this one here, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. They could maybe use just a minimal more shim, but I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now what we do, we got our stand height set in a Jessel style rocker arm. You want to have these adjusters. I like to have these adjusters so they are about 1 thread up, like right there. You see 1 thread sticking up? They can go to a little bit farther up and sometimes about flush with the nut is the maximum you'd want to have it out. There's a bunch of compound angles that are going on here. The farther down that adjuster is, or the farther up that adjuster is, actually changes your pivot point and changes a couple of things. It never changes your sweep here, but this changes the rate of motion, I guess you could say. It's an angularity thing. So it's changing. The farther down puts the push rod more angle. The farther up puts push rod less angle. It's it all has a little bit of effect. Just do it this way, trust me. So we'd like to have that at about 1 thread up. So I'm going to set the rocker arm 1 thread up. Got a Allen wrench for this? There you go. And Jessel will tell you that that's the proper method to do it. You know, usually 1 thread up is a good spot to have that. So that's where that's going to be. Now we'll come over here. We'll grab a adjustable length push rod, and you can see that this is a pretty simple deal. Self-explanatory. Put that in there. There's our lash. Now I will set this up at pretty close to what our lash will be. That's about 15 right there. Okay, we're on the base circle. That's all that matters. Now, if you want to sweep this all together with the push rod now, we can do that. Since it has the checker spring, we can do that, and obviously you can't use this little adjustable push rod on a big valve spring like what these are. So we got that. I'll roll this over. Now you can see here, this is the way the motion's all gonna work. There's our peak lift. Looks good. Yeah, actually, no, actually that's pretty nice. That actually looks better than I was thinking. So that looks good there. And now we will just measure our push rod. All right, and we'll measure this push rod with my 12-inch caliper. That will be the length of this push rod. Ah, Kyle's got one. So this push rod is 8.968. I'll give you a clue. Push rod manufacturers will not make you a push rod that is 6.968. They're going to go in 25 thousandths increments. And that 7 thousandths of extra length to make this 8.975 is 100% acceptable. Not a problem. Okay, so don't expect the push rod guys to actually make you something that is within the thousandths or 5 thousandths or even 10 thousandths of what you need it to be perfect. That little that little 7 thousandths or 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths makes zero difference in the real world. So we'll come over here, we'll do the exhaust. And get it down to length, closer. Okay, that looks good. Okay, rough idea on lash. And let's look at this one. Okay, comes out over, comes back in, peak lift. Yeah, that one looks pretty good too. Okay, so now what we'll do, we'll kind of show you, and we do check this also, is you can use bluing. This is a dry erase Sharpie. Should work pretty good to give you the idea of the motion, because it should wear away that. Oh, see, I grabbed the wrong rocker arm, sorry. I already had this rocker arm set. I was gonna say, that's weird, why did my push rod change? Okay, so just run it through its motion a couple times. Hopefully that'll give us a nice little indication. Might not have enough spring pressure to really give us a good movement, but actually we can do it just like this too. Because it really doesn't matter what the push rod's doing, we're just trying to get a contact patch. Let's see if that did anything for us. I think we accidentally turned it. There you go. Okay, you can see it just really lightly right there. And that is almost right there. Almost perfectly. I'll wipe that away. Almost perfectly halfway in the valve. So just verifying, you can see the sweep where it goes all the way. Dog's going crazy over there. He has no etiquette for filming. It's really disappointing. We're working on his film etiquette, but it's not working. Anyways, that is what you're looking for, and you want to see that kind of motion. That is how you're going to check that push rod length. So we take this push rod here, we just measure up how long it is, and tell our push rod guys, tell me whatever, and have push rods made for that length. That will give us adjustability. The threads, we have a little bit of adjustability in the adjuster screw up and down, and it still fits within our range of flush and slightly above one thread up. But that is how you check push rod length proper way on shaft mount. The stud mount, you're just doing the exact same thing. You're just adjusting this push rod. You're going to keep moving this push rod until it gives you the proper sweep. When you have the push rod length, then you don't have to do any stand heights, because the stand height is adjustable based on the push rod. Measure push rod, bang, all done. Okay, Same way on that you're going to do in non-adjustables and LS. Well, and straight out non-adjustable in the LS, you're just going to do it to get the preload proper on the base circle. Set camshaft on the base circle, get a push rod checker like this, spin it out to preloads properly in your lifter, 20, 30 thousandths, 40 thousandths or so, and then take the push rod out and measure it. And that's what you'd have. Okay, so that is tech for today on, or tech for this week. Well, just tech period. On how to properly adjust or properly measure and set push rod geometry and your rocker arm geometry in sweep motion. So, I'm Steve Morris. Have a great day.